So my name's Abby Lord. I'm here with Terri White, the ex-editor of Empire magazine and now freelance journalist. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Terri?
Yeah, as you say, I'm a journalist, writer, author. Trying to think if I've forgotten anything. Broadcaster, maybe. Yeah, I was a magazine journalist for 21 years. I've just recently gone freelance after editing Empire for 6 years. And I write books as well.
So what was it about print journalism that drew you?
So I've always loved print magazines, something tangible, just the sense of care and curation that goes into a print magazine, the way it's paced, the rhythm of it, the feel of the paper between your fingers, the smell of the ink. There's no smell like the smell that comes out of the box when you open the box that's coming from the printers that's got the first run of magazines in. I've always been obsessed with them as kind of objects. And I still massively love print journalism. I think it just allows you to be considered in a way that maybe a lot of digital journalism this way isn't geared towards. And I think it's a really important part of a lot of major magazine brands like Empire, for example. So I think I'll always love print.
So as a woman in journalism, it is quite difficult for women in journalism. There's a lot of discrimination and stereotypes towards us. At what point do you think we'll be able to stop having to prove ourselves in the journalistic world?
Oh God, that's a good question. I think, and I've definitely always felt like I had to prove myself that I was as good as the men I was surrounded by. I would work longer hours, I would work harder. And I think a lot of that pressure came from myself as much as anyone else. What I thought people thought about women in journalism. I think things have definitely improved over the last, 20 years that I've been in magazine journalism. I think there are real problems built in which need tackling. So things like maternity leave, how much you actually get paid to be able to be at home with your child, flexible working for when you go back to work. There are real kind of practical problems still within the industry that make it hard for women who make certain choices and of a certain age to stay within magazine journalism. So you'll often see a lot of women in their 20s in magazine journalism, but actually in their 30s and 40s they become much rarer. I made the decision to walk away from my job because I wasn't able to see my son as much as I'd like. And you would hope that wouldn't be the kind of decision we'd have to make in this day and age, but we kind of do. So I think, there's attitudes more generally, but then there's also real practical problems that need solving that will keep women in the workforce and specifically in journalism.
In your talk, you mentioned a lot about mental health, and there's still a stereotype that most women are quite emotional. But wouldn't you say being emotional sometimes produces the best articles, the best pieces?
So yeah, I think empathy is really important as a journalist, because understanding other people is what allows you to tell their stories. And I think, there is a lot, especially women, as you say, hysterical, emotional, whatever you want to say. Some of the best journalists I know are very, very in touch with their emotions and are able to use them when they need to be able to elicit a great story from somebody and then tell that story. Those are the two parts to our jobs, really crassly speaking. And I think you have to have emotional intelligence to be able to do both. And so I think definitely empathy is a skill that maybe hasn't always traditionally been valued within journalism, but I hope in kind of 2021 that that's shifted and people realise that actually that's what part of what makes a great journalist.
Yeah, absolutely. As myself, I'm about to step into the career. I'm expecting not to get a job straight away, like realistically. So, like, how important is failure at the start of the career?
I think it is important, but it's also what you're massively scared of. I think partly because I was from a working class background, I was like terrified of failure because I thought failure meant that I'd get like kicked out of London, have to go home, would never be allowed near journalism again. And I was always terrified of making the wrong choice, of doing something wrong. And I think that stopped me enjoying the first probably 10 years of my career because I was so kind of obsessed with making the right move, of doing an amazing job. And I think actually those early years in your career are really great for just playing, for seeing what you want to do. Do I want to do broadcast journalism? Do I want to do news reporting? Do I want to do long form feature writing? And actually being able to dip in and out of those things and work out where your actual passion and specialty lies is part of developing your career. And part of that will inevitably mean failure because there'll be things you aren't as good at that you are at there's a sentence in there somewhere. Basically, you'll be better at some things than other things. And I think it's really important. And I think kind of getting rid of that fear of failure is really important, because I can remember just being anxious about it the entire time.
And finally, are you looking forward to taking this next step in your career?
Yes, I am, whatever that step is. But yeah, it's coming, I suppose, leaving kind of full-time employment, being able to build a career for myself that allows me maybe to do more stuff that I feel passionate about, that maybe I haven't got the chance to do so much before, is a really exciting prospect for me. So fingers crossed I don't end up, living under a bridge.
Just as nervous as undergrads then.
Yeah.